Welcome to the Filmsteins, the Double Feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmsteins. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmsteins, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmsteins. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I'm joined by my country-living friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmsteins. Some recent episodes include Mad Max Fury Road, Furiosa, the new Mad Max movie, Green Room, Blue Ruin, and the best movie of the year, Arthur the King. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe for $1. Come right in. Come request a movie. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts, please. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we'll be talking about Makoto Shinkai's 2016 film, Your Name, the very loved anime movie. And I'll have to admit, I'm very, very curious how you feel about this movie. I didn't quite know what to expect. I just know it's like maybe the most loved anime movie ever made. And I was pleasantly surprised. I love the idea of when trying to remember dreams, you just push them further and further away until they're just a question of whether they were ever a dream. I love the twist. I love the motif of the thread and how important thread was to the country town. Of course, the contrast between the rural and city areas are very cool. Sort of like coming-of-age films that desire to want to be in a just bigger-than-life kind of place is a fun idea with our girl wanting to go to Tokyo. But man, I am very curious how you feel about Your Name. What do you think?
No, I really liked it. I love the idea of this body swap rom-com. You know, typically body swaps, you think of Freaky Friday, you think of comedies, really. I can't think of another one off the top of my head, but Freaky Friday is the body swap movie that comes to mind for me. And there's no better way to understand your soulmate than to literally walk in their shoes. And it's so cheeseball, and I really loved it. I know we haven't seen an animated movie in a while, but I love that animation has no limits to what it can do and what stories it can tell. But specifically here, I love that Japanese animation movies are just so insane and maybe profound with their messaging and their themes. And that's one thing I really love about them. Because here we dive into identity and self-discovery, relationships and their connections and what they mean to each other. We have themes of memories and dreams, the fate of time, destiny, modernity versus tradition. I mean, impact of natural disasters. It's like a bunch of things into one beautiful movie. And although I was pretty confused with the timeline of the movie, of what was taking place when, and they threw in some pretty nice plot twists, there's a lot of things that for sure were not confusing about this movie. Like the story, the characters, the visuals, this feeling of lost love, all the suspense, all the drama, all the heartbreak, that I wasn't even bothered by my confusion.
Yeah, bringing up the element of time travel is always risky business. And it's always going to be mildly confusing because it opens up a bunch of what if
And there's this element of dreaming thrown in there too that adds to that confusion.
Because dreams in themselves are kind of confusing.
Yes.
But it sets up this dynamic in such a way that these two people are so far apart in the way they live and where they live that the timeline these two individuals are on is irrelevant until it's not.
Yeah, until he finds out she's dead.
Which is awesome.
I know. Oh my gosh. It was heartbreaking. This movie was heartbreaking and so romantic at the same time. It's not even funny. But it works. Because it wasn't too sci-fi-y. It wasn't too convoluted. It had an explanation to the body switch. It had an explanation to the timeline difference. And you throw this element of destiny into the equation that makes sense. I love that the grandma explained it too, why this is happening, that it's something her and her mom have gone through, and probably other women, down the line, that she's not the only one experiencing this, and I like that. But I also thought it was funny that in another timeline, the grandma and the mom were experiencing something like this with their soulmate. Were their soulmates trying to save them as well? And the only man that succeeded was Mitsua's. Like, did grandma's man not pull through? And was the mom's man the dad, and he obviously did not pull through? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's these elements that just add so much complexity to this world that I'd be surprised if this doesn't have its own anime series.
Well, it begs the question with her grandma and great grandma and whatever, that their so-called soulmates, which this brings a whole new meaning to soulmate, was not close enough in time to even have met. These two were only 3 years apart and of similar age where they could feasibly meet and have some kind of real relationship. Because maybe grandma's soulmate was even beyond Taki's existence in 500 years, but was able to kind of give insight that where you live, where your lineage is from, is going to be obliterated by a meteor. It was just kind of Newtonian methoding its way down to the point of, all right, now we can warn the town through Taki.
That's funny. And no one would believe the grandma if she said.
That's insane. Yeah. It'd be more believable if it was someone of their present day, right?
Right.
I don't know. Is it more believable? I'm not sure.
Nah, people back then thought you were crazy. I will admit I was a bit confused on the dream theme here. I didn't know if we were actually supposed to think they were dreaming. And in movies, when people are having dreams, the directors try to make it a little bit obvious, to give you hints. Maybe they change some of the lighting, or they make something unrealistic happen to kind of clue you in. But this is an animation movie and Japanese, so everything's weird. And kind of being from a different culture, there could be some instances where that wouldn't be okay for me, or that would be weird for me to see, but not for them. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, totally. And obviously Japanese people only dream about everyday life stuff.
Obviously.
Yeah, maybe through a pair of different eyes. I thought that was kind of funny because, you usually see this surrealistic, maybe absurdist kind of approach, and it's more than obvious 9 times out of 10 in most films. But there was a little bit more of a focus on the aftermath of a dream here, and that process of forgetting
the memories, yeah,
and trying to remember, which I love. I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie, and it's something we all experience and try to share with one another. And some people even try to keep dream journals and exercise that muscle of remembering that dream. And it's funny because a romantic movie or a movie where you have these deep experiences with people are not too unsimilar to that dream-like experience. I guess maybe hence the dream girl moniker or something. And of course you forget over time, those experiences you had with people, the details, and it becomes a blur, more or less. Not a complete blur with the rest of your life, but they are just high points. And what's remembered most is what it felt like. And we all share that with dreams. When we're trying to tell the dream, we can remember it through our feeling first and foremost, but the more we think about the details, they just change or just totally dissipate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because I could have dreams that I think you would be in the dream or something, or a family member, or somebody that I'm obviously close to. I know what they look like, but for some reason, I think you were in my dream when I should obviously know whether you were in my dream or not. I know you, I see you, you know?
And then you start to question yourself.
Yeah, you're like, wait, was that even you, or did I feel like that was you? Yeah, it's so cool.
That's no doubt my favorite part about this movie, and it's just this fun little character-defining moments within these two. Because if I caught it right, Mitsuha was better at remembering her dreams. She could remember them longer.
I started reading the novel. I got maybe about halfway through, and the idea of the dream in the novel is a little more explicit, because chapters will start out with "I woke up" or "the alarm rang."
And I guess to be fair, they did try to make it kind of clear with Mitsuha being more charismatic while being in Taki's body, talking to that girl, and then when Taki was in Mitsuha's body, he would be better at basketball for her.
Right. And in the book, they would talk about how faint they were feeling in certain situations. So I think the book was a little more explicit with the dreaming quality of this story, where I guess in a movie, I want to know for sure whether I'm dreaming or not. But like you said, I mean, does it even matter what timeline we're in, or whether we're in a dream or not, for Taki and Mitsuha?
Did the top fall?
Oh, that top definitely fell. No doubt about it. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when Taki writes, "I love you" on Mitsuha's hand instead of his name. And I see you laughing.
Did you cry?
I might have shed a tear or two. And let me just say, nothing really made me cry in this movie, because I just felt this hopelessness, dreadness sometimes, with just how, like, I don't know, maybe I'm still a 16-year-old girl, but it's just so cheesy and mushy that I was there for it. I was totally there for it. But nothing made me feel that like when she was about to write something on his hand and the pen dropped. That's probably one of the coolest cinematic animated movie moment. It was awesome. Like my heart dropped when that pen dropped. But this idea of him writing "I love you" instead of writing his name kind of ties in with what you're saying about the dreams, about remembering the feeling of being loved instead of remembering who actually loves you. And it also gave me major Romeo and Juliet vibes, because they can't be together because one of them's a Capulet and the other is a Montague. That's where one of the most famous quotes of that play happens, when they ask, "What's in a name?" That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. It's so, essentially, no matter what you call a flower, it's still going to smell like a flower. It's still going to be beautiful like a flower, no matter what you call it. So I could see that being a major inspiration on this whole name thing, because they can never remember each other's name, and it kind of drives them crazy until he does that, and it just doesn't matter anymore what names mean, what they call each other. It's all about this feeling now. And I love it. Oh my god, it's so good.
It is super good, yeah. I totally agree. It's just funny. The whole movie's kind of funny in that way.
And I love when she discovers it too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was right after she just took that tumble, that fall, and we thought she was a goner. and she's waking up crying. And then that's the moment, right, where she's like, oh my God, I gotta save this town. Because it doesn't even matter what his name was. Because I think she was like, what's this on my hand, while she was still on the ground. And then she reads it, and it said, I love you. And that's when we find out what it says, too. This movie is obviously about relationships, and not only a romantic relationship, but relationships with your family and your friends. But there was one relationship that stuck out to me that had really not a lot of explanation or resolution, and it was the relationship between her and her dad. When we're introduced to the man, he's out there, he's running for an election for mayor, I think, or rerunning, something like that, and she's walking by with her friends, and he's like meant to sit up straighter, walk straighter, I don't know what he says, but he gets onto her. And you don't really think anything of it because that's what dads do, and specifically that's what Japanese dads do, until you realize that he doesn't live with them. They're being taken care of by the grandma. When she goes and talks to him, he totally dismisses her. We get this flashback or dream of the mom passing away and the dad leaving them with the grandma and not returning. And we don't really know why. And what really gets to me is that he gets the credit for saving the town. Because when she was inspired by this I love you, she finally went and talked to him and told him, like, hey, you need to do it right now. And convinced him. I'm sure there's something being said there about this specific relationship, this specific thread that has been woven in her life. But I'm not sure if I got it.
So those two obviously have an estranged relationship. How old was Mitsuha when he left?
I'm not sure when her mom died, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 3 years, because we have a 3-year thing going on here.
I don't think there's anything more there than the implication of some history, some rocky history. Because I don't think it's been a very long time because her sister is pretty young. So maybe there's this implied relationship of 10, 11, 12 years that they had before he left. And so maybe there's this underlying tinge of guilt in him where he needs to listen to his daughter because she still is his daughter, even though he's, this big wig now.
Because it just seems like this movie explains everything. But this might be one relationship that doesn't matter. It's just, again, interwoven in her life. This isn't the story Shinkai's trying to tell.
Are there too many moving pieces as far as themes and characters and relationships? Or does it help just build out the texture?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because we obviously have this theme here of walking in somebody else's shoes, experiencing life how they experience life, and we're being cute and funny with it, but underneath all the fun stuff, there's some serious stuff, there's some real stuff, like stuff with her dad, and we don't even get anything from Taki's dad besides a brief moment where he tells him, you're gonna be late for school, or you should go to school today, or even though you're late, still go to school today, like something like that. And then we don't get much of him again. We don't get much of the parents. And where are their moms, And I feel like these might be questions that the fans of the movie might want to know, especially anime lovers who get so many episodes and get so many things explained to them, that I could see this being a film with a lot of moving pieces that there's stuff missing. But at the end of the day, you also have to be okay with this being a movie about our two star-crossed lovers here.
With this big injection of what is ultimately a slice of life.
Yeah.
Because you don't see a lot of stories where there is this level of characterization and various dynamics with a movie slapped on top of it. There's usually a pretty tight focus in one way or another where stories of most kinds and cinematic experiences really have tunnel vision, which is normally very good to help sell a very specific idea or agenda. But I do find it really neat that none of this really gets in the way for me to tell a really, really cool story.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Just to pivot here a little bit, I want to talk about the animation. We don't see a lot of 2D animation movies, especially for a movie that was a big hit. It seems like a lot of the big hits now are 3D, but I really love the art style in the movie. It was very beautiful and very detailed. I was very surprised about how detailed it was, and I absolutely loved the photorealistic backgrounds that were splashed everywhere.
Maybe not to this degree normally, but that is a hallmark of slice of life anime-esque stuff, is these like hyper detailed plate of eggs and bacon or the pots and things on your porch. And I do love to see, unlike most anime, proper anime, you don't see a lot of detail in the way things move. Probably mostly because of budget and needing to get these things out and just the Pulp Fiction nature of them. But we see an unbelievable amount of detail in clothes and hair and the way things touch. And it's super neat. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of like anime-esque animation films, and I was really into this one.
Yeah, because we have that scene where Mitsuha and her sister are performing the ceremony where they're spitting the chewed up rice, and when she's doing that, she's covering her mouth because she's embarrassed, and it's something other people don't want to see, whether she's embarrassed or not. And I just thought that was like a really cute detail, because in the shot we're zoomed in watching her do it, but then we get a shot where now we're with the audience and we don't see her do it. We see her hand covering her mouth, and the detail just blew me away. And I believe there was another scene, I'm not sure who it was, whether it was Mitsuha or Taki or one of them in each other's body. They're pretty much the same person. But there's this scene where they're running and we're zoomed in on them, and then we zoom out to see the whole view of where they're at. And the fluidity behind that transition was just crazy for animation like this. It was insane.
Yeah, these are the advantages of creating a 2D, mostly 2D world in a 3D way. Yeah, as far as that hand motion, though, it brings a level of characterization that is mostly unheard of in American animation, especially 2D-esque animation, because we see that mostly expressed in style of character. Are they thin? What are they wearing? How do they talk? What car do they drive, right? We see less character and more cartoon, really.
Yeah, and it's almost like we also try to focus on the wow factor of it instead of the personality behind it.
And then that personality is dictated by what the character looks like, instead of it being an earned piece of character.
Yeah. I also liked all the transitions with the sliding doors. We had a lot of her sliding her bedroom door paralleled with his sliding of the subway door to add that characteristic of him always being on the move, being in the city, having to work, having to go to school, having friends, having this very busy life, to her having this kind of relaxed, homey, country life coming out of her bedroom.
And on top of that, he had to go to work. He had to make dinner, right? He had to work with his dad. The way she lived felt more privileged, I guess. What she worried about was when she can make that break to Tokyo. She did basketball, she went to school, I guess. But her living situation was much more simple.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I love that something as simple as a transition could give you so much for these characters. But also the love that went into the characters themselves and letting us, the audience, know who was on the screen at which time and whose body and which person was in whose body at the time. I loved it. I think you briefly mentioned it earlier in the episode, but just the details that went behind that. I mean, it was awesome. Like when Mitsuha was in Taki's body, he would become more feminine. He would kind of move a little bit to the side, move a little more to the other side. Maybe his eyes were a little bit wider. I mean, just not only in the personality of the character, but in their movements, in the animation itself. Or when Taki was in Mitsuha's body, all of a sudden her hair was in a ponytail or her hair was down. It wasn't put up in her like traditional way that she had it with her little ribbon on top, but it was more relaxed. It was more chill, more whatever. He seemed like a whatever type of guy. Like whatever happens, happens. Sure. And I really liked that. I really enjoyed all those details. Because one of my favorite scenes that reminded me how much I love montages is the montage where they're setting up all their rules and really getting to know each other and leaving diary entries for each other with rules and stuff. And she's just trying to set him up with the boss, and he's like, I don't know if I want that. And he's just being a rebel in her world and not knowing he should cross his legs when he's wearing a skirt, things guys don't really think about. And it's very fun and super fast paced and chaotic and everything a good montage should be. And I really, really like this because it's a sequence where you have to watch it maybe multiple times to catch all the sweetness behind it. Because one of his rules is for her to stop wasting money. And she's like, well, first of all, you work. And second of all, I help you work. And third of all, it's your body. So it's all going to you anyway. And just this like personality quirks that they're getting to know about each other. And oh my God, I was just amazed by it.
Yeah, there's a funny separation of mind and matter there where Taki's not experiencing those Cheetos, that burger. So even though it's in his body, it's nourishing him or fattening him.
Yeah.
She's still wasting his money because he's not getting that experience.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that, but that's a good point. And not to mention, she keeps taking pictures of everything she eats, so he's got the snapshots in his phone. So it's just so cute. And we can tell so much about these characters without even having to spend time with them. Which is, again, what a good montage should do. I should be receiving this influx of information and sweetness and feel-goodness and appreciation for the characters. I don't know, I felt like I haven't seen a good montage since Iron Man or something.
Yeah, I'm not really an appreciator of the montage. I sleep on them, I think. But in a supremely executed animated film, a montage can be especially special because everything to the nth plus one degree, man, is intentional. That's not so much the case in live action.
Yes. Because even in live action, you have improv.
It's not as controlled.
And
no matter how much you control it. As much as we all love good improv, when you hear about, Robert Downey Jr. injecting this great bit in Iron Man or whatever movie, it's like, oh man, he brings something really special to that character. It's always different in animated movies for sure.
Which makes me appreciate, by the way, all the like old school 2D animation. And I'm thinking specifically Disney films where they do the bloopers. They have these characters doing bloopers.
Oh, yeah.
And I always thought that was like the coolest thing as a kid. And we've completely done away with those.
No, I mean, those are amazing. They help build this level of imagination that is completely unmatched in any other form, because bloopers in an animated film, it's like the greatest what?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It really
Yes.
is good. It's just like the cameo thing that you see in a lot of the early Pixar films with the Bugs Life guys on the branch when Buzz comes by,
Right, right.
knocks him off. Like, it's just like, what is going on? It's awesome.
It's the coolest thing to experience as a kid, especially you experiencing them, not your friend told you about it, so now you got to keep an eye for it, or you saw it on the internet, so now you got to keep an eye for it.
Yeah, all that's ruined forever now because of the
Yes.
internet. No, none of that stuff will get by in surprise in the way it used to. So we're really just left with movies like Your Name, where you really can't spoil the level of detail and character and environment. You have to experience such a thing.
Yeah.
Like, Turning Red kind of comes to mind, where you see this level of detail in the counters and stuff, but it's not emphasized in any way. It's just texture to help build this house, in their case, that it's lived in. Nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
There's no personality, really. At least as far as flexing that animation.
Yeah. I completely agree. I also want to bring up one thing from the book that I didn't quite catch in the movies, and maybe you did. But of course, we were faced with having to watch this with subtitles because I do not speak Japanese. So I feel like maybe this was missed for that reason or not. I don't know. But in the book, she has a more country way of speaking. She uses a lot of yes ma'ams, no sirs, like.
Yeah, that would have been impossible for us to catch.
Yeah, and then he doesn't, and that's one of those clues to tell you literary wise who's talking and who's not. But I don't know if that was in the movie, and if it was, I didn't catch it. I don't know if that's something that you can quite catch because of that language barrier. Because I think I saw in an interview somewhere that Mitsuha uses a lot of old terms or a lot of words people don't use in Tokyo anymore. And I thought that was nice and a really clever detail that I guess I'm unfortunate to pick up on. But it just goes to show that story-wise, we gave these characters personality. Animation-wise, we gave these characters personality. Dialogue-wise, we gave these characters personality. I mean, their personality was everywhere. And I don't know if that's one of the charms of anime in general. I know anime series are becoming more popular, or maybe people are more inclined to watch it now that they're out there and everyone's okay to admit they like anime. But it's just this charm that they have.
No, totally. I think anime, first and foremost, is charming by nature through a couple different avenues. I think anime does suffer from bad writing.
Yeah, that's when you're like 3,000 episodes in, though.
But not all anime is created equally, of course, too.
Because I know we haven't brought it up, but we even give these characters personality through the score. And there's certain themes, again, that are played when a character is doing something. And it plays according to how that character's feeling. So it's just very detailed.
Yeah, that's an awesome observation. The dialect thing is really funny because you hear that on occasion. A movie will come out and be like, oh, that's not how all people from the South sound like, when they try to give you that very Georgia Southern Belle kind of accent or something, when there's, 17 different ways of speaking across the South. And not being Japanese and especially not knowing Japanese, I would have never picked up on the difference in dialect.
Was the ending for you as satisfying as it was for me?
When this movie came out, that staircase was photographed with lots of people on them. That was real, became a meme, I guess.
Oh, awesome. Because I wasn't sure what they were about to do to me. I wasn't sure if they were going to just walk past each other and hold on to their feeling and never say a word.
That would have been awesome if they would have just kept going, but there's that little chime when they walk past each other, and it's happened a few times. And that lets you know that there's going to be some kind of embrace. But they did drag it out in probably the best way I've ever seen in some kind of romance setting.
Yeah, it wasn't desperate. It was very cute. It was very shy. And like many of us, this feeling of, wait, should I say something? Like, are these feelings just me? It's like the classic scenario when two people obviously like each other and everyone knows it but them. And one of them doesn't want to say the feelings and neither does the other one. It felt very high school, but it felt very cute because I don't care how old you are, you're always going to remember that feeling of your first love from high school or that time you told your crush how you finally felt.
And also always and forever be intoxicated by the new things.
Yes. Which again ties everything back to that element of time and place and holding on to the feeling.
I'm going to give you one guess what this movie, Your Name, what other movie it reminded me of.
Past lives.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Especially when they walked past each other each time, there was this feeling that you're kind of hitting on of having already known each other in maybe a past life.
I also got vibes of past lives, especially when we kind of sprinkled in this element of reincarnation, where you're kind of hinted at that Taki is maybe like a reincarnation of Mitsuha, but he's not. It's just that they're part of a whole. But there's that element of it. And I know you felt it too. And it gave me the vibes of the guy, not the white guy, the other guy. I don't remember their names now. But the Korean guy, and how he couldn't wait to get reincarnated to see what was going to happen next for them. But I didn't even think about the walking past each other. That's more obvious.
Yeah, that was the kind of central feeling in that movie, is this sense of, don't I know you from somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe. Were you around in 1985? That's not even that old.
85. I wasn't even a glimmer in my daddy's eyes.
Well, I've got bad news and bad news. Really just one bad news. Paramount is making a live action remake of this, Your Name. So we have that to look forward to.
No.
We're in an interesting place. Video game movies are not garbage anymore. Anime remakes, live action remakes, are also not the worst thing, with One Piece and the Avatar show on Netflix. People liked.
People are liking that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right.
there is that.
So we're excluding all the Disney live remakes?
We exclude Disney from any conversation.
Any conversation?
Except the 90s animation.
All right.
Well, man, thank you for watching this movie and talking about it here today with me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, man, do you have a budget for Your Name?
Well, my budget, yes, it's $60 million. And I'm pulling this completely out of my behind, with my only comparison being Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I thought that came out in 2016, but apparently it came out in 2018. So now I'm not so confident in my 60 million, but I wasn't confident in it to start with. So let's start there. But I'll stick with it. I'll let it ride out.
Well, it says here that it was 750 million yen, which is about $5 million.
Holy crap!
And it went on to make $382 million. So it made a lot of money.
It kicked ass.
It made a lot of money, man.
That's awesome. Oh my god. That's awesome. I'll keep that in mind for our next Japanese animated film that maybe they tend to be on the lower side. Yeah, I was reading that this broke records at the box office.
Yeah, I think the big one before this was Spirited Away, Studio Ghibli film from 2003, I believe. So it's been a minute. Well, over on Letterboxd with 1.1 million people, they weighed in at a 4.2.
I'm not mad at that. I'm giving it a 4. I think the confusion factor was a little bothersome, just a little bit. And maybe its scope of ideas was a little bit too much. Like it needed longer time to explain some things. Or not even explain, but just to give me more background like I would want in a kind of in a movie like this. And also the introduction was a little bit off for me. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but it felt very anime.
Like the intro song?
Yeah, because it didn't immediately start off like that, but then we had this introduction song to the characters, and the characters were just standing around kind of like crossing their arms like they do in anime, and it was just cute, but it was off for a movie.
Yeah, anime introductions, like the theme song companion, they're garbage most of the time. They could be, we could be without.
They're so catchy.
Some of them are catchy. People like this soundtrack a lot too. It's good. It's very good. Yeah, I'm somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4. I think I want to see it again before I cast my vote, but excellent movie.
Yes.
Well, man, thanks again, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on patreon.com/Filmistines, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come request a movie. Come subscribe for $1. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines, and follow us on social media for more Filmistines. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching, keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines, signing off.